Please, we're very interested in this being an interactive meeting. So as noted on this slide, take advantage of the chat feature on Zoom or use the URL on the screen to send comments to us. So this is the 13th meeting of the program, and our current affiliates are listed here on this slide. I'm going to take a few minutes here at the beginning to tell those who are less familiar with us a bit about the program and its motivations and so forth. I should first introduce myself. I'm one of the faculty directors of the program. My name is Steve Graham, and it turns out I also serve as Dean of the School of Earth, Energy, and Environmental Sciences, which hosts the BPSM affiliates program. So BPSM, and particularly the faculty and students that make up the group, are part of an industrial affiliates program that, as this slide indicates, is a recognized center for excellence in training in Basin Petroleum Systems modeling. Industrial affiliates is a term that's used at Stanford University that's synonymous with what many companies in the industry call JIPs. So this is essentially a consortium that is a partnership between the private sector, specifically you folks, and us here at Stanford. We began this program in 2007 in response to a perceived need in the industry. And for the last 13 years, we've trained students, many of whom have gone off into industry positions. So the original motivations for founding the program are listed on the left. Of course, 13 years on, lots has changed. Certainly, as you all know, there have been radical changes in the industry over that period of time. But the initial motivations were, again, based on our contacts with folks in the industry, a perception that a university-based program to train students explicitly for going into Basin Petroleum Systems modeling was needed. We at Stanford are blessed by having a truly extraordinary pool of students, talent from all over the world. We already had a series of courses that simply needed to be sort of stitched together to form a coherent curriculum. We had all the right people at the right time. And of course, as you all know, software had become increasingly sophisticated. Computational speeds were such that it was practical now to do basin modeling. And finally, there are already a number of industrial affiliate programs, or JIPs, in place at Stanford, not only in our school, but also in other schools like the School of Engineering. So we had ready models to be able to apply. What's changed since then, as you know, unfortunately all too well, is that the workforce has changed and continues to change essentially on a daily basis. We still happily have the same quality of students. And so as the workforce shrinks and as skilled senior people rotate out, we're still able to provide students to feed the need in the industry for basin modeling. What's more, our student body is increasingly diverse in all measures of diversity. So now more than ever, they represent an exciting pool of folks with whom to engage. So Basin Petroleum Systems modeling has enlarged a great deal since 2007. We have embraced new disciplines. We've embraced new points of emphasis, as for instance, gas hydrates. We have been able to take advantage of the fact that it's now possible for software packages to talk to one another. So we have integrated workflows. So we're sitting here eagerly engaged with you folks as our global thought partners. So what does your membership in the Industrial Affiliates Program benefit you? So obviously, this meeting is one of the benefits. It represents an opportunity for dialogue between you and us. And of course, your monies go to fund our graduate students, which are the lifeblood of the program, as well as our scientific staff. And that in turn allows us, through our dialogue, to be able to transfer knowledge into application. And finally, as I've already indicated, we provide the students who are able to sustain your a workforce in the space of petroleum and systems, Basin petroleum system modeling. So it's vital that we keep the lines of communication open. One way by which that occurs is through recruitment. And as you'll see, a tremendous number of our students over time have both taken internships and permanent employment in your companies. We also keep the lines of communication open through our annual meetings, which ordinarily entail a field trip as well. Obviously, in the COVID world, we've been unable to do that, but we would hope that next year we'll be able to resume that tradition, and more about that in a few minutes. We also have a number of other ways between our annual meetings by which we're able to share results, and that includes essentially TED Talks, recorded talks, also script packages, and Basin models. We also produce regular newsletters, and here I need to give a shout out to Allegra, who you all know, who's essentially the linchpin for all of this. And by virtue of your membership, you have early access to publications and presentations. Now, I have to note here that one of the fundamental tenets that the university requires with regard to these programs is that since this isn't contract research, that ultimately everything goes in the public record. But once again, these meetings and access to preprints and so forth give you an advantage before dissertations and publications are seen more broadly. So in one view, BPSM has a geographic base. And this map shows at sort of global scale the many locations where we've had essentially place-based studies conducted. And these include some from past years and some that are current, such as the Jeanne d'Arc Basin off of offshore Canada, which Tanvi Cheda will talk about a little bit later. On the other hand, there's another way to look at BPSM, and that is in terms of the disciplinary approaches and increasingly the way in which we integrate disciplinary approaches. So all of the approaches or methodologies that are listed here have been parts of the BPSM program. I'll not read them all off. You can see them plainly enough. But as you can see, they're really quite cross-sectional, essentially ranging all the way from the molecular to the sub-regional to regional to global, and cross-section in terms of methodologies from geophysics to geology to engineering. And as I said, somewhat sadly, normally we'd be out in the field with you folks. We are blessed here in California, where Stanford is based, with having easy access to petroleum systems that are live and have outcrop expression. And this slide captures about a half a dozen of the locations that we've visited over the years, where in fact you can see typically reservoir, seal, and source systems in outcrop in ways that ordinarily are impossible. We expect to get back to this next year. So you've heard the phrase, it takes a village, and indeed that's the attitude that we have taken within BPSM. We are blessed with a large number of faculty and adjunct faculty who help to advise our students and teach our classes. I won't name them all here, but you can see them in the upper left and also in the list below. And you'll meet some of them today. Our current crop of students is shown in the lower right. And as you can see, it's an astonishingly favorable student to faculty ratio, essentially 1-to-1. So our students have plenty of opportunity to interact with folks who can give them advice based on essentially centuries of experience represented in the upper left. And our students are extremely eager to share their results. And so every year, our students are represented at any number of conferences. All the ones here are actual organizations or meetings in which our students have been represented. Um, and this is one way by which we obviously affect transfer of information to the broader community, in addition to what we do in a more personal way, as right now with you folks. And as I said earlier, our students have taken up permanent positions and interned at many, many different companies. Here's a list, maybe not even exhaustive, of most of them that we have had students cited in. Some of these companies don't even exist anymore or have been modified substantially. And as you can see, they're quite cross-sectional, from majors to smaller companies to service companies as well. So you might ask, quite reasonably, where does the money that you give us go? And as I indicated earlier, really the principal reason for having this program is to be able to allow students to do the research in this area, this translational research that allows them then to go into the workplace. So much of the money goes into funding of graduate students. We also have an element of the budget that funds a principal scientist. We hope to get a new postdoc in this coming year. And then all the other things that you might suppose go into this, for instance, lab costs in particular, some computational costs, travel to conferences, not so much this year, but in general, and training courses where that seems needed and appropriate. So you all know as well as anyone how the price of oil has fluctuated over the years. And as you can see, plotted on the left-hand y-axis or right-hand y-axis, and in the blue curve, how crude has varied over the last, well, since the time in which BPSM was founded. And of course, it's had its highs, it's had its extraordinary lows, particularly this year. And in a vague way, the number of affiliate companies has tracked with that. Now, affiliate participation varies for all kinds of reasons, including, philosophical changes within the companies, whether or not they're interested in particular petroleum provinces where modeling is important, whether they're short on staff, and so forth. But for most of the years, as you can see, the core of the existence of the program, we've maintained a pretty steady state of about, maybe 9 member companies. We're obviously at the lowest point this year since 2010. The reasons for that are abundantly evident. And of course, we all hope for better things to come. But the point of the slide here, other than for historical purposes, is that by virtue of the fact that our membership is down, we're in the same kinds of budgetary constraints or budgetary hurt that you folks are as well, or Stanford University as a whole is. We have held our annual fees quite constant and relatively low compared to other industrial affiliates programs here at Stanford for a number of years, as you can see. In fact, we held it constant for the first decade or so of the existence of the program. But in view of current circumstances, we are likely going to have to increase our fee this year. And so this is just for the coming year. So this is just a heads up to the realities that we all face right now. It's obviously extremely important to keep our students supported, and we wouldn't do this if we didn't feel it was absolutely necessary. So thanks for your understanding of our situation. So with that, I think I've said all that I need to by way of introduction to the program. By all means, please please send questions or comments if you have them. And with that, I think I'll turn the program over to Allegra. Allegra, it's all yours.